Jason, what's this sizzling dish called?
Scotch fillet, sizzling beef.
Oh my God. Wow.
Every town in Australia has a Chinese restaurant. It's a place for celebration, comfort food, and a sense of community. Whether you love sweet and sour pork or that magical deep-fried ice cream, everyone's got a story to share. Join me, Jennifer Wong, as I spin the Lazy Susan around the country and ask that most important question, chopsticks or fork?
So, Jen, where are we off to today?
We're off to Happy Garden in Parap, where the food is influenced by the family's long journey to Australia.
That sounds awesome. So heaps of flavours there.
Lots of different flavours, very Darwin.
So Darwin.
Parap is an inner-city suburb of Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory, which is on Larrakia land. It's home to more than 130,000 people. Darwin is a gateway to the World Heritage-listed Kakadu National Park. But even in the city, you can get up close to local wildlife.
I think the crocodile won.
So did you know people in Darwin suffer from mango madness, where essentially everyone goes a bit mad?
Is it just the heat or is it from eating mangoes?
Both?
While the weather can feel unkind to delicate humans like myself, the local flora and fauna love it. The city is filled with botanical delights, beautiful bays, and sunsets to die for.
Jen, the restaurant's that way.
You mean there's no food over there?
No.
A lot of people who can't handle the weather, they leave. So what happens, you end up with a place that's full of tolerant people.
Happy Garden was started in 1981 by Jason and Daniel Lee's parents, only 6 months after the family arrived in Australia. The restaurant has now expanded to 4 more takeaway locations in Darwin and employs more than 50 staff.
When did you start coming to Happy Garden?
Forever. Probably, 10 years, I think. It's been a while.
The Lee family are Hakka, and while their ancestral home is in Guangdong, China, they came to Australia via East Timor, Indonesia, and Portugal. Hakka means guest families in Chinese, and traditionally the Hakka people have migrated throughout China and the world. They were guests, not locals, everywhere they went.
Let's talk a little bit about this idea of being Hakka. So I'm Hakka, you're Hakka, we are all Zigayin, right?
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I'm an imposter Hakka person.
Yes.
What does it mean for you to be Hakka?
Well, for me, I've always said that we've actually lived a Hakka life. Great-grandparents left China. My parents were born in Timor.
What do you remember about growing up in East Timor?
Actually, 9 kids was born in East Timor.
Yes, yeah.
At that time, my father was very successful with my mum, and we had 2 rice fields, cattle station, 99 cows, apparently, and a bit of a variety store that sells from sugar, coffee to shoes.
Like a department store.
Department store, yeah, that's right.
Even sell fuel, like diesel and
Everything.
petrol
Oh my
as
God,
well.
one-stop shop.
One-stop shop, yeah.
So
Unbelievable.
maybe they were planning for us to be farmers, you know, to run the rice fields, run the cattle station.
Yeah.
The brothers introduced me to a dish inspired by the flavours of their childhood in Maliana, East Timor.
So it's tamarind chicken wing. Timorese street food, I suppose, taste. Every Timorese, Chinese barbecues that you go to, you've got the tamarind sauce to go on your satay or barbecue meat. Of course, tamarind is, we can get them at home in our backyard in Maliana. We often, it's something that we pick the fruit from the tree.
Pick the fruit and eat it.
That sauce looks amazing. Look how thickly it's
Thick.
just sitting
That's
there.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think we should try this one.
Okay.
Yes. Now, how do you feel about using chopsticks for chicken wings? Do you feel that it's compulsory to use hands?
Oh, it depends.
I mean, we are in your restaurant.
chopstick skills. You can maneuver it, change the angle,
This is the ultimate
twist and
test.
turn.
Yeah. All right, I'll start with the chopsticks. I have it all over my face, I know,
No,
but that sauce is incredible.
it's different.
Tamarind sauce should go on everything. It's so sweet and tangy and...
It goes well with the steak as well.
Refreshing.
Steak as well.
Yeah.
The Lee family's life in East Timor was cut short by the country's civil war in 1975.
You know, it came around pretty suddenly. Didn't have much time to prepare.
We were young
How old were you?
when we actually run away. It was just about 11.
How did that affect you guys, the Civil War?
So we left with just a Land Cruiser, not much belongings, negotiated to drive into West Timor, which is Indonesia.
To escape the war.
Later on, it was one of the fathers, Siku, informed the Portuguese government that, hey, there's quite a lot of Timorese refugee in Atambua,
in
Indonesia. Can you assist?
Go to Portugal.
So because of him, Father Siku, we went to Portugal.
Wow, and how long were you in Portugal for?
76 to 81.
Yeah, for about 5.5 years. Yeah. And even though we lived in East Timor for that long, learned a bit of Portuguese.
But Portuguese
Can't
like
even speak Portuguese when we got
Portuguese. It's like a bit of pidgin Portuguese, like that.
Yeah.
Although the family didn't speak much of the local language, they still managed to embrace the tastes of Portugal.
Jason, what's this dish called?
Chicken potato, and it's a dish that Mum cooks at home. So looking at the dish takes me back a long time ago.
How do you describe this dish to people who've never had it before?
It's simple and it's got a bit of that peppery taste to it, and the potato is the influence from the Portuguese that being in East Timor, being a Portuguese colony. For us, it's more of a Portuguese Timorese Hakka fusion.
So you would have this at home with the kids?
Easily, yes, yes, and it's actually quite a easy dish to cook.
Yep. Are you doing chicken first or potato first?
I like the chicken first.
It is so good. You didn't tell me, are these potatoes fried first?
Yes.
That is amazing. Wow. It's like fried potato with that sauce on it. So it's really chicken and gravy with fried potatoes.
Yeah.
You don't even say it's fried potatoes.
No.
That's such a huge selling point.
Yeah.
In the 1800s, thousands of Chinese labourers came to Australia, and some of them found work cooking on country stations and at pubs. By 1890, more than a third of all cooks in Australia were Chinese. However, with the White Australia policy in 1901, Chinese migration ground to a halt. But if you were a chef, you could still get into the country. By the 1960s and 70s, Chinese restaurants were popping up all around Australia.
And how did you come to Australia?
My uncle, my mom's brother sponsor us. It was difficult, but because my mum they have 10 children, that doesn't fit into the normal Australian,
Vehicle.
vehicle or family.
The idea of
So I think Malcolm Fraser became Prime Minister. There was some sort of a
Family reunion
policy. It was quite generous, allow us to come. Our aim was always to come to Australia. So we quite happy to come here. We never look back.
There's a long history of Chinese migration to Darwin. At one point, Chinese people here outnumbered white Australians 5-1.
I'm third generation. My father was born here, my grandfather was born here, and we're probably more Aussie than some of the Aussies.
Neville shows me around the Northern Territory Chinese Museum, which tells the stories of Chinese people in the top end from 1874 to now.
This is the family that I'm associated with, Fong Ding. His name was really Fong Keng Su. So there's 2 Darwin Lord Mayors out of this family here.
Oh, wow.
So there's his extraordinary family. There he is there. And that's some of the images from this family here.
We came here and my mom was looking for a job. We don't really have a skill. Not like a plumber, electrician, you have a skill, no. So this lady that owned the shop, it used to be called Pratt Fish and Chip or Lucy Fish and Chip, something like
Golden
that.
Phoenix.
No, not Golden Phoenix. No, I don't think so.
I've checked it.
Is it? You checked it?
I've got documents there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've been fact-checked by your own.
Anyway, so she needed someone to work. So my mom was, someone introduced my mom to work here. My sister come to work. She need more people, and I come to work. And then she asked my dad, I want to sell my business. You got a lot of children. Why don't you buy my business?
In the beginning, Happy Garden served old-school fish and chips alongside Chinese takeaway. But a few years later, in an effort to increase the business, it expanded into a fully fledged restaurant with over 120 dishes.
So Daniel, this is a sweet and sour dish, but it's not what you would normally see necessarily in a Chinese restaurant. What is this one?
This is sweet and sour barramundi.
So it's lightly fried,
Lightly
is that
fried.
right? Yep. That is delicious. It's so delicate and gentle, but so flavorful still.
I think my mom and my brother
Yeah.
come up with the sauce.
So since like 1981.
Yeah, we've come with the sauce, but we haven't changed recipe.
Okay.
My brother and my mom were very stubborn. Once they got it, they don't want to change it.
Yeah. What's it been like for the two of you to be Chinese living in Darwin?
Coming to Darwin, the weather is the same.
Yeah.
And all these small ethnic groups means that for us it's a lot easier integration and being accepted here.
There's a lot of migrant here, so
Migrant
everybody's
here
same,
as well.
basically.
Keeping with the spirit of multi-ethnic Darwin, Happy Garden also explores many non-Chinese Asian flavours.
We're looking at Malaysian chili prawns. My wife is actually born in Penang. Her cousin introduced a chef that wants to come around to Australia, so we actually sponsored him.
Oh, wow.
Come across. We introduced a few dishes. So it's got a sambal chili background to it.
Okay, and that's the Malaysian yeah.
influence to that. And it's been very popular.
Now that I've tried so many dishes, I figure it's time to meet Jason and Daniel's mum to see where it all began.
Auntie, uncle, 你今天看了你的生意那么好，你觉得怎么样啊？
健康的人生生意很好啊，你觉得样的吧？
可以啊。
很高兴。
高兴啊！
我妈有30个孙。
30个孙，那真的恭喜恭喜啊！那很棒啊，30个孙，那全部在这里的。
啊，有一个哥哥在Melbourne，然后有一个弟弟在雪梨。
那真的很开心啊！
是啊。
Family sits at the heart of this business. The Lees are no longer Hakka guests passing through town. They've made Parap their home, and Happy Garden is their legacy. Their delicious, delicious legacy.
The place hasn't changed that much since we were born. I've had birthdays since I was young here. I've had a lot of family dinners here. It's always familiar and it always brings back happy memories.
Are you the one at Melbourne Uni at the moment?
Yeah, I am at Melbourne Uni.
So what do you guys feel about maybe one day working for the restaurant when you finish studying?
My dad has the dream of like franchising the business and having lots of stores around Australia. I'd love to help him make that happen.
There you go. Jason, what's this sizzling dish called?
Scotch fillet, sizzling beef with chef's special sauce.
Okay, and what's special about this special sauce?
The sauce that is suited for the Westerners has got a bit of that tomato sauce in it, apparently, in that sauce.
Okay, so that familiar taste.
Familiar taste to the Westerners, yes. And the cut is important as well.
Yeah, the cut is nice and cubed, so one bite.
Yep.
One bite.
Juicy.
Cool. Shall we each have one bite?
Yes.
My kind of food.
Oh my God. Wow.
Sweet, isn't it?
That is so good. When you eat Happy Garden food, do you eat with chopsticks or fork?
I kind of know how to use chopsticks, but I get impatient.
Say we're fairly Aussie, so a lot of the time we probably use forks and spoons.
Absolutely, chopsticks, yeah.
I probably don't hold the technique correct, but I still manage.
I always eat with chopsticks, but our Filipino vibe is a spoon. So I'm like a chopsticks and sometimes spoon guy.
I had such a happy time today trying all the dishes in Happy Garden.
Everything is so gorgeously presented. Like,
Are you surprised by some of the flavours that you got in what we think is a Chinese restaurant?
I think if you were to say to a person travelling through town, oh, let's go to have Chinese food, they would think of a certain type of Chinese Australian food that perhaps for some people may be limited to Mongolian lamb, honey chicken, lemon chicken, that kind of thing. And I think what we saw today was what happens when you have a family that's got their cooking influences from so many different parts of the world. And it's a delight for the palate to have all of this.
A delight for the palate.
A delight for the palate.